Although Hunt Palmer did watch Pulp Fiction finally this weekend.
It's true.
What'd you
Knocked
think?
it out. I liked it. Good movie.
Well, everybody likes it.
The plot progressed start to finish. I liked the ending. It was good. I was good with
All
it.
right, we've got about 72 more we've got to get you to
I
watch.
don't know if I can get there.
All right, Chris Marler of Saturday Down South joins us next, and I know for a fact, Marler, you've seen Pulp Fiction.
Oh, yeah, several times. What are these 72 other movies you have?
I haven't seen any of them. It's awful.
Chris, all of them. He's never seen a
Name
Rocky.
it.
He didn't think Saving Private Ryan was very good.
I did see it, though.
Oh, wow. I don't think anyone else had that take. Very bold move. You haven't seen a single Rocky?
No. No Star Wars, no Rocky, Godfather, Goodfellas.
A lot more than that.
I haven't
I
seen
think
anything.
Goodfellas hurts me the most.
Sorry.
I gotta go, guys.
You're not the first.
All right, Chris, are you finally transitioning from football season to SEC basketball season, or is football season still lingering? Because, as we all know, we just had the longest college football season in the history of college football.
Yeah, I mean, emotionally, no. The answer is always no for that. I'm trying to get into it. It's been kind of an awkward transition just because, like it was a very long football season, and you have the month of January, which seems to be 287 days long. And I went on vacation this past week to California. So, yeah, honestly, I don't know what day it is. I don't know what season it is. I wish it was still football season, but I'm trying my best to get into basketball.
As you look at this basketball season within the conference, there's a lot of parity in there. I don't think that we necessarily have these dominant teams that we've had before. You've got some teams in the bottom. Look, last night, Ole Miss gave Auburn a run for their money. It's a double overtime game that they absolutely blew. They led 17 at half, and I caught up with Coach Ben Helen last week, and he said, look, anybody can beat anybody in this league. That's just the way it is. Of course, he's not serious about Vanderbilt because we've seen them play basketball. But there is some parity in the league, and yes, Kentucky and LSU and other teams might end up on top, but right now it does seem like you've got some really good teams in the middle part of the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's I think some will say that it's just kind of a weak league top to bottom. There's not a clear-cut favorite that could, make a Final Four run, but that's the same thing we saw last year when Auburn kind of caught fire late and was a 4 seed going into the tournament, and lo and behold, they're one bad call and I think 2 points away from going to the actual national championship game. So I think it's kind of too early to tell if there's an elite team in the conference that can challenge for a national championship, because I think a lot of times it has to do with who gets hot late in the season. But I think there is a lot of parity, and I think like against each other in the SEC, it seems like anybody can be beat on any given night. But where you see that most, I think, with the parity and kind of how strong the conference as a whole is, you look at a team like Florida, who they are so incredibly frustrating to watch because, right when you think they're going to kind of hit stride and stop making some stupid mistakes and win some games, they kind of let you down. But that's a team that was favored by 2 points against the number 2 team in the country on Saturday. I know they lost, but it says a lot that Vegas would even have them as a favorite going up against a team like that.
Talking to Chris Marler, I want to stick with Florida there because I was pretty vocal a couple of weeks ago when Florida came to Baton Rouge that I was still picking Florida to win the league. I thought they have the really good roster, and I love Mike White as a coach. And I realized that if you listen to fans too often, you'll get a pretty skewed view of reality. But I'm looking at after they lose that game last night, and I'm looking at the reaction, and I see 30 consecutive Fire Mike White tweets under the official Florida's men's basketball Twitter. What's the feeling on him in Gainesville?
I don't want to speak for the entire city of Gainesville, or I want to say I have my hand on the pulse of Florida basketball or football or anything really, because Florida Twitter, it's like the Beetlejuice thing. You don't want to say it 3 times because they will come out of the woodwork to haunt your dreams. I saw the same things, the Fire Mike White stuff, and this is the same kind of fan base where there's a little bit of a complex of wanting to be where they were 15 years ago, not just in basketball, but also in football, and kind of not accepting the fact that they aren't there for whatever reason. And I think it's a good team. They have a lot of pieces where you could think that, maybe they'll be a great team at some point in the season. But I think also being 20 games in, you kind of at this point, they're not a finished product, by any means, but you kind of getting a better idea more and more of what they are. And I think what they are might be, a middle of the road, more top tier SEC team that kind of underachieves when it comes to being the postseason.
Did you get his Beetlejuice reference?
Well, I've heard of Beetlejuice, and I know you can't say it 3 times, I think.
Okay.
But no, I've never seen the movie. Is there a
Yeah,
movie?
We were
Are you
wondering.
a Facebook like Russian bot? Like what is that?
No,
mean?
promise not. I just spend far too much time watching Chicago Cubs baseball and college baseball. I'm just not all that cool.
Okay. Hey, give us a good word on this Alabama basketball team. We know that they're high scoring, and we know that they like to shoot the 3 ball. As a guy who follows Alabama, did you think Nate Oates would have his team in this position right now in this season?
No, I don't think anyone necessarily did. Like if they were being actually rational and logic and honest with you before the season started. I mean, it's a team that I think that there is a ceiling over this team. I don't know how great they can be. I think they've kind of surpassed a lot of people's expectations. They haven't had the toughest schedule. They only have one quadrant one win. But I think more than anything for Bama fans, it's just watching a better brand of basketball. I mean, it's like the past 2 coaches, they've had. Listen, I love Avery Johnson, and Anthony Grant was fine, but it was like going from a triple option team to like an even worse triple option team. It was very average on offense, and for them to be able to put up almost 83 points a game, be in the top 5 in the country in scoring, I mean, they have a lot of deficiencies and a lot of reasons I don't think they're going to necessarily do a lot of damage in the postseason, but it's been a lot more fun to watch, and averaging over 11 points more per game they have in the last decade in any season. I think that speaks a lot of Nate Oates.
Marler, you talked about maybe Florida and their disappointing season. Do you think they're the most disappointing in the conference as we talk about Alabama maybe overachieving? Is Florida the team that's underachieved the most?
Honestly, I hate to say it, but I feel like it's Georgia. And maybe it's just because I live in Atlanta and I see or I have to hear about it constantly nonstop. And, I think for a lot of SEC fans, once January hits, everyone, quickly gets on Wikipedia, tries to learn the rules of basketball so they know what they're talking about, and then kind of gets in the off season, or as they like to call it, basketball season in Kentucky. I think with UGA, you got a lottery pick, man. You got a guy that's going to be a lock to be a top 4 pick. And to blow a 20-point lead at Mizzou, which is probably one of the worst teams in the conference, if not, besides Vanderbilt, the worst team in the conference, it's been really disappointing. I mean, it's not often you get a kid that can be that much of a difference maker and to underutilize them that much. I know I'm not speaking on just like it's not the whole team's fault necessarily or just that kid's fault or our coaching, or Tom Crean's fault. But either way, it's still been pretty disappointing.
Chris, we'll get you out of here with some football. If I gave you one quarterback from the SEC to start your team with next year, who would you take?
One quarterback to start my team with next year. I tell you what, man. I don't get to say Tua or Joe Burrow. They're gone.
You do not. They are long gone.
I mean, Jamie Newman. I like a lot of the stuff we've heard about him. Come from Wake Forest. I like some of the pieces they have around him. I don't want to sound like a homer here, but I got to say Alabama's Mac Jones. Just with what he has returning, it's a very small sample size of what he's done as a starter. But you talk about 4 starts in his entire career. 2 of those, the last 2 he played, came against ranked teams and defenses that were ranked in the top 20 in the country, and he lit them both up. And I know he lost a lot of offensive production at the receiver standpoint with Judy and Ruggs, but I think that kid has a real good chance of putting up some really, really good numbers. Maybe not like Tua numbers, but he's got 4 or 5 offensive linemen coming back. Najee Harris coming back. He still has Waddle, who caught like half of his touchdowns for the season in that Auburn game, and Devonta Smith. So I think with the pieces in place around him, I'd probably go with Mac Jones.
I would say, Marler, just be careful putting a list of 1 through 14 together. I think Jordan Rodgers is still going through the trouble of putting Joe Burrow at number 8 on that list.
Oh, without a doubt. I'm sure that's happening. Also, 1 through 14. Next time I'm on here, guys, we've got to see at least. I don't know. You got to chip away at that list of 72 movies you haven't seen and get into at least Rocky 4.
Hey, Marler, do you have one for Hunt to watch? Can you throw one out?
Rocky 4.
Okay, Rocky 4. Can you do that?
Well, what about the first 3?
It's fine. You only need to see the first 3.
All right.
You only need to see it. Just go straight to Rocky 4. I mean, the other ones are good. Don't get me wrong.
But if you didn't like Saving Private Ryan, if you watch Rocky 4, I need to let you know, since you didn't like Saving Private Ryan, you're supposed to be cheering for Rocky, not.
Hey, Marler, I appreciate the time, brother.
Of course, man. Y'all have a good one.
All right, there he is, Chris Marler, Saturday Down South. He's not lying right there. I mean, he's telling the truth.
Well, whatever. I don't really care.